As Madame Hooch once said in Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, with feeling, once more with feeling. Here we are for the last episode of 2024 of the Dropped Kickoff. I'm Nick Wasiliev. I am joined by the usual suspects. Actually, we have usual suspects. We have Mr. Hartman. We have Dylan. We don't have Mr. Williamson. We know Mr. Williamson this time. We put out the poll to try and get all the boys. There's a lot of us. All the boys on the pod, and the only person who couldn't record tonight was Nathan Williamson. So I would take this opportunity to say he's letting the side down. After appearing on all of the podcasts this year, he's letting the side down when it counts. Nick, what do we do to punish him?
Let's ignore him and leave negative comments on his articles.
Yeah, all of his articles on RA, like all the comments. Like I reckon, unveil some of the comments from the DKO chat. And get him in hot water. That's what I reckon we should do.
Call him a TARS supporter.
Oh yeah, well no, he'll wear that with pride.
I actually saw one of those comments on a Sydney Morning Herald article. It was like, look what happens when you don't listen to the New South Wales Brigade.
Doesn't that just say it all? Does it? Dylan has the man on the outside. How are we feeling about the New South Wales Brigade after this year, Dylan, as the Victorian in the room?
Oh wow, that's gold, Nick. I love that. I mean,
it was one of the best years we've ever had in ages, and it still can't fucking forget it.
All these amazing players. 2025 is going to be great. All going to be
all the better players. The Queenslanders all play for the Reds. No.
What's that old saying? Isn't it it's the Australian cricket team to do well, New South Wales has to do well? Isn't it the same with rugby?
Very true.
Yeah, I would agree.
He missed that, so that's Andrew's just missed that, so that's all right.
Yeah, I know.
I caught the end of that.
New South Wales.
You're all already on thin ice. Unbelievable.
We have our last edition, as you can probably hear, who literally joined the pod late by 2 minutes. Andy, how are we doing in beautiful Queensland, my friend?
Oh, sweltering, hey. But look, good. Not many Reds in the team on the weekend, and we saw the result. But otherwise, I'm feeling happy about Australian rugby at the moment, to be honest. So it's a good feeling. Let's hang on to it.
It is a nice
I'm with you. Remember when the Wallabies beat Wales twice and Georgia, and it was like 3 wins in a row. That's kind of attitude we've got to have and keep.
It does feel like that a little bit, to be honest. Like, even though we finished this bloody tour 2 from 2, and then there was I just remember 2 weeks ago we were all being like, oh my god, are we actually going to do this Grand Slam? And then of course we go to bloody Edinburgh, and things pan out differently. But let's be honest here. I reckon let's dive talking about this island game, because the general consensus I've felt around Planet Rugby is that it's still, even though we lost, it's still kind of a 3 out of 4 for the tour, because it was a bloody good game in Dublin. Do we agree or disagree? Because I think it was a great game. I thought everyone played pretty well.
Okay, I can go first. I thought it was a great game. Funny thinking about it, some people were saying, Australia never looked like they were going to win that game. Like Ireland looked like or was going to win it. People also said that Ireland looked relieved that the game finishes at 80 minutes and not 90 minutes. But thinking back at it, we made a couple of stupid mistakes. I think we're on top. The stupidest mistake was Tongan Thor's.
God!
Who is now officially a Waratah.
Yeah, I know.
Thank you for reminding me.
You'll disown him, won't you, Andy?
Anybody? Boo and blue.
Brad who? Thorn who? What argument, disagreement did they have? Who?
Oh, sorry.
Oh my God, with Sualihi literally on begging on the left, just throw it, do the big bloody lot.
Fuck it, you got to do the shitty little tap throw.
But it's not even that. If he just popped it to Williams, it would have worked.
Or if
he didn't actually, it's. And a few of the players tried to do it. It was like, Len Ikitau won us the game with a flick pass. Let's all try and throw shit passes. And look, if he pulled it off, he would have been the greatest hero in Australian rugby. But that's a certain try he cost us because he had Suoli, he had Lolesio was a bit far out on the right. You know what? If he grubbed it, it would have worked better. But
I was going to say, is that play reflective of the fortunes of the Australian Test team under Joe Schmidt, in the sense that we were so close, and then one play goes one way or the other, and the result's different, and not just the result. That would have been 3 out of 4 on that tour, and we would have been engraving our name on the Webb Ellis Cup already, I reckon. But one stupid pass, had ramifications. And is that a bit of a microcosm of Australian rugby? Like, we're so close and we can see it, but we just didn't do it.
I just want to add to that as well. You could maybe the Bledisloe game in Sydney.
I mean, you could. Not only that, maybe even that pass that Ikitau did to Jorgensen at Twickenham, because that was a 1%.
Saying
that was a 1% that came off. So I reckon. I mean, it's. I think that sort of stuff often can come down to moments of execution, and then like that whole mantra of making winning a habit. And the problem is that the team. It's for me. You're right in one sense, Andy, in that like I feel like watching that moment was like watching the Wallabies probably. Let's be honest, probably for the last decade, like where there's clear talent and good potential there, but it's those moments of execution at key points that let us down. It's the 1% here, the 1% there, the 1% here, the 1% there that builds up over time, and then suddenly it affects whether you win or lose. Some people even said that this felt eerily similar to the Dave Rennie tour before he got the kick. And part of me is like, maybe, but I feel like I definitely feel, because obviously the most obvious comparison is the 13-10 result that he had the last time they went to Aviva Stadium. Third time in a row we've lost to Ireland by 3 points, which is ridiculous to me. That stat, insane.
Well, it's really interesting. Like, if you want to think about, one of the best things to see from the Wallabies, if we talk positive, is like Ireland did so well against a lot of teams over the last 4 years through their ability to shift the ball and beat the blitz defense. Because a lot of teams were blitzing. It's how they defended it, or how they attacked against a blitz defense out the back door, retaking the shape. Well, the Wallabies didn't blitz; they drifted, and Ireland didn't know what to do. So I think if you want to look at the positive, they were playing smart rugby. They've worked out a defensive structure, and look, there's still gaps. There's still some weaknesses, but overall, that structure that they adapted shut down one of the best teams in the world, one of the best attacking teams in the world. Yeah. So I think that's a real highlight. I think if you want to talk about is Tongan Thor's pass indicative of Joe Schmidt, I think it's more indicative of Tongan Thor. Like, I think if you look at if you look at like Angus Bell and what he was able to do in that game against England, the massive runs, the passing, the tackles he breaks. Thor, I think, is starting to show he's not what we thought he was going to be, And when you look at the positives out of this tour, is we've started to highlight some real key players in key positions. We're seeing that there's depth in certain positions, like the locks. Frost and Williams. Yeah. Brilliant. That is a brilliant locking combination. Salakai Loto is killing it as that enforcer role off the bench. He's not playing stupid rugby. He's playing hard rugby. Even Skelton against Wales really held him as that big man. But tight head is still a spot that we're like, oh, shit, we don't have the depth. And I think this tour and that pass is really showing that, Thor's not it.
I think I don't necessarily agree so much. I think I was quite surprised when because I was very worried about starting 3 for this particular match when Slipper, Paenga Ramosa and Tupou were announced, because first of all, they haven't played a lot of time. They haven't, in terms of this year, they hadn't played much time together in that combination set piece. But I think Fazler has been is currently the number one hooker position. I think Bell is the number one prop position, and it's really a toss up between Tupou and Al Alatoa right now for the other position, and maybe even Kaliak, whether he comes off or not. But I think there is on your point though, Dylan. I reckon there is some depth emerging in critical key positions. Nathan made a really good point about going into this tour that the Wallabies, what we really need right now is world-class players to emerge. There's a good team, but every good team has those couple of world-class players, your Colbys, your DuPonts, who can change and transform a game and transform a result. I think we definitely got that, and I reckon Bell is definitely one of them if you're talking about that starting prop position. And I mean, we don't even need to go into Ikitau and all of the loose forwards.
Can I tell you something that frustrates me on this topic? So there's an episode of The Simpsons where Homer gets a lobster and he puts it in the fish tank, and he's got a goldfish in the fish tank. And Lisa goes, "Dad, a lobster's seawater," and goes one step ahead of you. And he starts pouring salt into the fish tank. And then Lisa goes, "No, the goldfish is freshwater." So then Homer starts pouring water. And you see the lobster, when he puts salt in it, sink to the bottom and it's healthy, and the fish got to the top. And then when he pours salt water, the opposite happens. And then the joke is basically he pours it so they're both kind of half dead, half alive. And I kind of feel that with what you're saying, right? If you have no world-class players, and then much to my embarrassment, the Queenslanders are right, and you have Big Mac, as Andrew calls him, Harry Wilson from Narrabri, and Tate, really shine. But then you have Tupou, who's meant to be this fucking superstar, and he's just not there. And we're still relying on Alatoa and Slipper, who you can kind of see their age. And you know what I mean? And now you're saying we don't have enough depth there.
Well, I think
it's a bit of a lobster goldfish situation.
I think you're right. I think the positives of this tour is it has emerged that we have some of these guys have stepped up but perhaps in the past few years, whether it was under Checker, Rennie, or Jones, they weren't people that really went, "I'm grabbing that position and and I'm going to make that my own," as well as guys that you would put in a World 15. Realistically, the last couple of years, Marika was probably one of the very few that was getting into what would arguably get into a World 15. And to win a World Cup, you need multiple players and not just a world-class winger. You need a key, the props. You need a second rower. You need a back rower. And, Frost and Williams might not be world-class players, but Christ, they're looking good. Both of them are looking like really good second rowers, and we've been hurting for good second rowers for a while. That back row, that is a world-class back row. I saw a tweet. It was, the inevitable things in life: death, taxes, and Australians having the best open side flankers. It's just we've always had a great seven, and I think the benefit now. He's actually a seven playing seven. We're not trying to fit two blokes on the field in playing one of them at 8 or one of them at 6. And actually now we've got 3 sevens. Let's all put them on the field. We've got, a 6, a 7, and an 8 that could make a World 15. It's hard when you look at some of the back rows around the world, but they are class. Even Jake Gordon stepped up. I think this is some of the best rugby I've seen him play, and he's just in a leadership position and maturity. The centres, I'll be the first to put my hand up. I was wrong about Suali, how we say it. Sorry. I did not expect what I saw from him, and I'm happy to be wrong. Ikitau at 12 works.
Do you think Suali had a good tour? I thought people were riding his nuts hard after the England game, but that's because he did a lot of very obvious things,
They were, but he didn't. He did a couple of mistakes in the Ireland game, and you sort of saw him get caught out of position in defence, but he didn't do a lot that like I was expecting a lot of holes in that 13 channel. I was like, yeah, you run the gap, one of them will jam, someone will go outside. I think there'll just be a gap. You know, we'll have a young winger and they'll just score up that 13 channel because that 13 is a really hard. You got to be a defensive like champion there. So I think, yeah, I'll give him the props he deserves for that because I was wrong. I'll put my hand up and say I was wrong. Back three, I think that attacking wise is good. I still think there's some gaps there. There's probably someone, no one's really grabbed that wing. I think, and I don't necessarily think that the right Callaway combination works perfectly, but I think attacking wise it does. I think defensively there's still a few gaps, but we're starting to see that. And then you go to the bench and you look at the hookers. Fazler had a great tour. BPA's looking a lot better than he has in the past. And then we've got some of those other guys returning from injury this year, like Dave Parecki coming back. So hooker we're covered. Yeah, some of those loose head props. That bench is looking pretty good. I think Kalia's still coming into his own off being a pretty young fella. First year of playing sort of that high level rugby. Tate, that combination of Gordon and Tate off the bench, with Tate off the bench, I think is working great. I just think the glaringly obvious positions that we are lacking depth in 9 because I don't think there's a third option if one of them gets injured. And then
Nick's going to say Lonergan.
Well, no, Lonergan is the obvious choice, but I don't know if because you can't have Tate and Lonergan. I think they play too similar. I think the advantage we're seeing is that Gordon is a calm, composed, and then Tate gets on there and fucks shit up. And he does. He just he breaks the line, he scores, or he sets someone up to score. But I don't know if he's an 80-minute player, and that's fine. Rassie's made the box world champions multiple times by having a bomb squad. We can have a bomb squad. It's actually funny. I watched a video about Springboks, and because they've got 4 scrum halves that are about the same. Like we've got 2, they've got 4. And I just remembered against Romania when they played all 4 scrum halves just to figure out who was best. Do you remember that? One started on the wing, I think, and 2, one was fly half and one was scrum half.
Outrageous. So bloody Rassie, hey.
But that's his whole thing. It's like, I'm going to have a 7-1 bench because I know I could put one of my scrum halves. I can put my fullback in at 10. Like, he has just got such confidence and depth in those players. And he's also got, Quagga Smith, who they just chuck him on the wing and he scores a try like a freak. That's a bomb squad.
It's a 7s player. But see, like, if Eddie did it, you'd be like, you'd be poo-pooing him. But Razzie does it. Some just say because he's won 2 World Cups in a row, but the numbers speak. If Tupou makes that Campese pass, we think he's a fucking legend. He doesn't. He looks like a fucking moron like Campese. So, can I ask Andy a question? Does this mean
go ahead.
More New South Welshman, considering that Harry Wilson was born in Narrabri and grew up there, or Gunnedah?
Gunnedah, I think it was, yeah. But he plays for the Reds now, so
yeah.
He's Queenslander.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look,
I think we're down to 2 or 3 Reds by the last game that we lost. I'll just point that out. I should have charted. I was thinking about this on the drive home from work. I should have created a chart of number of Reds in the team versus our win-loss.
I should have charted. Sorry.
Charted.
Did anyone else hear that?
I heard charted. Yeah, I heard
charted.
I'm not gonna lie. That's probably the most that's probably the most rugby reg thing you could have possibly done. Do you remember when he tried to claim Michael Hooper when he retired?
And talk to us. Stop eating in McDonald's.
Do you like our costumes?
Yeah. So Nick, you got to tell people what they can't see.
Yeah, if you're not on YouTube, which you can by going to Green.
I'll send this photo.
It's a brilliant photo. I love it.
How are you going to cope now?
That's my dad dressed as the Coke. I don't know. I'll be all right. March. They're back over here. And he's still playing. He's still turning out for UQ in Hospital Cup. So he's still running around in local Queensland Premier Rugby when he's not playing for the Force. So
Who, your dad?
that's right.
Who's your... I'm so confused. Sorry, when you said you sharded, really threw me off.
We're still on
Threw
that.
the whole podcast off.
We've gone from a PG rating to an M rating real quick.
I heard some
how we
F-bombs before, so I feel like we're already at the M rating.
Here's a question.
We talked. We were all swooning a little bit before about. Sorry, I'll just co-op this for a second. A few people have mentioned Angus Bell as a real standout this year and a real world-class player. Should we all take a few minutes now to say our favourite thing about Angus, or maybe we should all talk about who have been our standouts this year? Do we want to go through?
You can go first. Then.
One person. For me, Fraser McFucking Wright. Look.
Good boy.
I'm glad I dressed up as a big man.
Good boy, Andy.
Off.
He is good. He is legitimately in the discussion for the best 7 in the world at the moment. He is a guy that can turn a match with his work.
I agree. And actually, it just makes me laugh because someone was saying that, in South Africa, they do their numbers differently in the forward pack.
Oh, yeah.
Someone said, Fraser McWright, best 7. South Africans, it's Peter said to twat. What do you mean? No, you idiot.
Oh, God.
Open
Speaking
side.
of
Is that your South African accent?
Yes.
Yeah. Dr. Ruby here.
District 9.
Oh,
District
how's
9. How's it?
How's it? Dr. Ruby here.
Biltong.
Is that an app support reference?
Yeah, sure is.
You sound like Leo doing his bad Zimbabwean accent.
Take me back to Blood Diamond. Fucking 2006. Should have been.
Right.
Should have won the Academy Award for best.
Nick, who's your standout?
God,
He's gonna say Noah.
No. Well, no, Dylan. Look, here's the thing for context. Dylan and I have been eyeing each other off. He's been saying so much shit about Noah in the chat, and we will get to it. I've got things to say to you, boy. But off the back of that, off the back of Andy's comment, I do not just like my initial immediate response is to go to who Australian Rugby determined was the best rugby player of the year, which was Rob Valentini. Because the dude's a fucking gun and has been probably the most consistent player week on week. But for me, in terms of this particular tour, I think Len Ikitau has had to do so much work. He's had to shift positions. He's had to do a whole bunch of stuff to accommodate Sualihi. And I reckon he looks a gun at 12. I already thought he was a player in contention for world class at outside centre. I reckon his level has gone shot through the roof after this particular tour, and it's not just because of that ridiculous pass. And I think it's helped open up the entire back line, putting him and shifting him into that slot. It's not just, I think it's helped out Noah. I think it's helped out the back 3. I think it has helped out Tom Wright and made him a more effective weapon. And we've got to also talk about, I think Tom Wright has also been phenomenal in terms of his attacking style. But I reckon it has kind of proven to be that key piece where it feels like the back line clicks a little bit more. And I think in combination with Sualihi, we saw something in that England game that really made that back line unpredictable, which is the key word that I think will, that with more time in the saddle will change things up. So Ikitau for me, classic Brumby.
You just hope his shoulders aren't too sore from carrying that back line and then carrying the Brumbies. So,
well, he seems to be fine at it at the moment.
Oh, this is a bit tough for me. Are we talking, Andrew? You posed the question. Is this all year or is this just the tour?
Look, all year, and if you want to nominate somebody throughout the year and then there's somebody else you want to recognise for this tour, I'm okay with that.
Okay, well, all year I would easily say Tom Wright. I think to your point about Fraser McWright making his way into one of the top open side flankers, I would have to say it would have to be Tom Wright, the same for fullback. Where he's come from and the kind of journey he's been on, it's just crazy, and he's so self-assured. And I know, Dylan was just hating on him for his defensive work. I just think he's magical. He's great, and it's really great to see him. Autumn tour. Oh, this is a bit tougher. I'll probably just have to go with you. Oh, actually, no, I'm going to go Harry Wilson. His leadership has been so strong. Considering what he's the fourth captain. Does that mean he's fourth in line? What's Liam Wright going to think when he comes back? Is Liam Wright going to come back? But yeah, his leadership's been phenomenal. His game sense, of course, the thing I'm going to talk to is that Scotland game, the ball came off the upright, and Harry Wilson both caught the ball, marked it, and then kicked it. Just great captaincy and great to see. And I think probably the number one thing is he's not erratic. I mean, like Cooper's not erratic, but he just kind of always kind of disappointing, Fucking amazing player. Not an amazing captain, but yeah. Harry Wilson. From Canada.
And from the Reds. I was waiting for it. I don't know if you saw me unmute my mic about 6 times.
I know. I saw. I could see you like you were. He was like
flicking on and off, like, "When's it coming? When's it coming?" Yeah, this is Harry Wilson from Gunnedah, is it? Yeah. Okay. Gunnedah, the Red Devils. See, he's red.
Harry Wilson.
Yeah, Gunnedah's, but the Red Devils. Okay, he is red. He bleeds red. Red headgear. What a man. What a legend.
Born in New South Wales.
Born in New South Wales.
Well, to quote Edward Norton in The Italian Job, I like each your ideas. I'll have one of those. So
you just swooned about Angus Bell.
Just front rowers.
You love a prop.
I love it. I love it. Front rowers, they are the most. What's that quote? It's the most important player on your team is your tight head prop, and your second most is your reserve tight head prop. Like the true alpha male or two high value people, props, men, women, props. No, I've already swooned enough over Angus Bell. I was actually going to say I'm going to cheat and take two and go Frost and Williams. The law firm of Frost and Williams. Just that, both of them, I was a bit unsure. I'm like, who's Jeremy Williams? And like, dude, just, he scored a great try. Frost has scored, great tries. The work rate of those two, that might be the best second row combination we've had. I can't even remember the last time we've had a good second row combination in this country. Like genuinely two second rowers that you are excited to see get picked. Like,
and where did Williams come from? Did he go like shoot shield or dare I say hospital cup to England and to the Force?
I don't know. Nathan's not here. We can't ask him.
Nick used to his little walking.
Nick W's looking that up. Are we?
Yeah, no.
When you were talking about that, like you can't remember a second row combination. Is that because that's one of these positions that you just need those guys to just get stuck in and take line outs and then just pop it down to the scrummy and hit rocks and just get in and do that. Just There's that grunt work. And these guys are so good at it. We know who they are. And then they're doing this extra stuff. They're scoring these amazing, wing sort of tries in the corner with the twist and the put down. Like, is that why we don't recognise the work of the predecessors, because it is unappreciated, and these guys are legitimately that much they're that good as a combination that we're actually sitting up and noticing them. I don't think any of us play second row, do we?
I do. Speak for yourself. I saw second
Oh,
row.
you play second row, do you? We've never met in real life, so I don't know how tall you are. So, I'm surprised.
I was 6 foot at 13, so they were like, "Oh, you could be second row," and then I was 6 foot at 18, and they were like, "Well, you run like a second rower, so I guess you're a 6." And then you go to club rugby, and third grade, no one ever wants to play second row. Everyone wants to be a flanker. So it was like, okay, I'm back to being a second rower.
In answer to your question, Dylan, I was actually thinking, I think probably the best combo, maybe since Horwell and Vickerman at the 2011 World Cup, was probably my answer to that. To that, I was like,
yeah,
there's a freaking good combo.
That's
That's what I was looking up. I didn't even know what you saw beforehand. I had my razor lights on somewhere elsewhere.
I haven't done the numbers on it, but it's just like when you think of some of the guys that have played there over the last couple of years, you're like, they haven't really, because it is an underappreciated position. Like, it's not something that there's a whole bunch of glory in. You just have to be a workhorse. You've just got to be good at winning lineouts. You've got to be tough when you carry. You've got to be tough when you tackle. And you've got to have some, sorry for the PG fans out there, you've got to have some cunt about you, but you've got to be smart. Darcy Swain is just too much cunt, no smarts. Eben Etzebeth is all cunt, all smarts. Eben Etzebeth is the best second rower in the world, and there's I don't know. I just think that for us, that is the best, because we've had good locks come through, but that is the best locking combination. And then to have Salakai Lotto do the role off the bench that he did in that tour, which was be the enforcer we needed him to be without being stupid. Like, I don't think he gave away any really stupid penalties, but he tackled hard, he carried hard, he ran hard, which is what they needed for the 25 minutes he got off the bench. And I think that, to me, is the bright prospects.
And he's also really come around, since he's gone overseas and come back. Like, he was always
I wasn't excited I wasn't excited for him to come to the Rebels. I was like, oh god, yeah, all right, here's another Queensland reject. But he was probably
New South Wales. Yeah.
Yeah, well, New South Wales. Yeah, I mean, I don't even have a super team anymore, so what am I complaining about? But he
come support the Reds, Dylan. Come support us. The Reds are your team now, mate.
He's shaking his head. He's shaking his head.
You've been trying that for so long, Andrew.
I will keep chipping away at it.
No, come support the Brumbies.
Yeah, like, that's going to fucking happen.
Yeah, I know. But on your point though, Dill, I reckon there is an extra element to that cunt comment, which is like, when was the last time Australia really had a big old bastard who attacked rucks, did the dirty work, and committed murder? My answer is probably Scott Fardy in 2015. Was the last guy who really did that. I think now we've got 3 or 4. I reckon Wilson.
Love that guy.
I reckon Wilson has been a major factor in that ever since he came to the captaincy, because the dude just freaking he gets in on the dirty work. Wilson does, and on top of it, he keeps his head about it, which is really really good. And having Williams and Frost in there, I see them do the dirty work as well. Maybe it's just my own appreciation for dirty work. But
I think when you see that hard work, Harry Wilson, again, he's another standout. Like, I was really surprised. I wasn't expecting much from him. I don't think he really performed in a gold jersey under Rennie. And to see him this tour, since getting the captaincy, he's just found a gear that we've needed. And it's allowed him to go to 8 and push Bobby V, who, again, is a workhorse with a lot of talent. He's got to put the flip pass away. He can't do it. Stop fucking doing it. But he is. His tackling has allowed Mick Wright to be better over the ball. As a team, they're actually finding that mongrel about him. But if you think about thinking about great locking combinations, I remember seeing Matfield and Botha. That is 2 names that scare that's nightmare fuel. And then, you think about like all these like Whitelock and Retallick, smart, hard workers. And if they keep going, it'll be Frost and Williams.
Hey, so going on that, if it's my turn to ask a question, Nick, which I assume it is, my question is how big, and I guess this is more for you, Dylan, but how big and important has Schmidt's coaching been? So, even I think, to kind of go back to what you were saying about Rennie and Harry Wilson, I feel that Rennie gave a lot of these guys a shot, McWright as well. And they're like, oh, you didn't really wow us, and maybe that could have been because they were given, half an hour kind of thing. But under Schmidt, and yeah, he has given a shot to a couple of people like Angus Blythe, who played 2 games, I think, in winter, and he hasn't really come back. But just, is that the impact of Schmidt's coaching, and how good of a coach has he been? It's a bit of a Dorothy Dixer, but talk to me. What are your thoughts?
I was actually thinking about that today, that it's good to see a bit of continuity. I know there's all those people saying, I'll be good to see what Rennie could have done with that extra year, but we weren't really. People will say we were building under Rennie. We weren't really. We never really did anything. It's like we were, but we weren't, because we were coming from so far back. I actually think that we're looking a lot stronger. And look, maybe it is Schmidt. Maybe it's it's the smarts. We're playing smarter rugby. We're playing a style that, like I brought up earlier, against Ireland, going, well, let's do drift defense. The drift defense that we used against England really nullified the way they wanted to play. And yeah, it was a high-scoring game, but it brought a new dimension to it that was a lot smarter. And I would say that we've played a lot, barring a few fuck-ups, a lot smarter this tour. And it's making me go, I hope that, I know Rennie's only on a 2-year contract, and I know that there'll be this dependent on how it goes with the Lions, but I think if he can build this for, with this momentum for the next couple of years leading into the 2027 World Cup, it's given me hope. And that's why I'm the old man that sometimes yells at clouds, for those who aren't watching. I was going to write sometimes yells positively at clouds, but I thought that might be a bit wordy. And look, some players perform better under different coaches. Some coaches know how to get the best out of players. Some coaches know how to make a team. One of the big criticisms that we've seen is, like, especially out of New Zealand, is Ian Foster was picking the best players, but he wasn't necessarily picking the best team. And, this guy's the best athlete, we've got to get him on the pitch. But if it's not good for the team, no. And I think that's what it appears that Schmidt's working on, is actually going, what is the best team to put out there? And he's still going to tinker with combinations. And, like that Scotland team had a fair few changes in it, the team that faced Scotland. And maybe that was something that had to do with it. But, yeah.
I also reckon preparation. I mean, like, how many... there was a couple of players, including Williams, who were out due to illness. I think there was... also, like, they only got one proper training session because of all the stuff with the snow.
Nervous because Angus Crichton was in the crowd too. Can't discount that.
And also because Angus Crichton was in the crowd and they got stage fright.
And I think that Scotland game, when you say that, Nick, which is a legitimate thing, I'm not trying to shit talk the team, but that then goes, where's the depth that can fill in? So, like, you notice the difference when Gordon couldn't play and White came in. The Wallabies missed this. It wasn't as good. So that's why what I was talking earlier is there are probably still some positions that we don't have the depth that, like, you go, oh, if he got injured, well, we've got a great, this guy could step into it. And so it's not just having a great 23. It's
one thing I've been thinking about that with regards to depth is that there has been so much chopping and changing. And not like a steady hand. So you mentioned Retallick and what's his name, the other guy?
Retallick and Whitelock.
They were the lock pairing for years and years. Like, they really it was very steady and that got to build up. And we haven't had that. And if you just have that steadiness, then you it helps to set expectations. I'm not a coach, but it helps to set expectations and what you've got to beat if you want to get in. And I just kind of feel that kind of to what we're speaking towards about like Wilson not playing well under Rennie, but now playing well. I kind of feel like sometimes, especially with Australian players, they need that mindset and be able to lock in, as the kids say. And that kind of affects the depth. Like Tizano, great player, but McWright's just, far above him at the moment.
He's a good option, though,
Tizano
you can bring
had a
in,
couple
though.
of times. Yeah, great option. But if you had a couple
I think
games,
I think that's what the solution is that the reason why Schmidt has brought in so many players. There's the two key answers. One, he wants new blood to kind of flush all the shit of 2023 down the toilet, and kind of help that to reinvigorate the camp. But also because he's trying to build options whilst at the same time expand, make sure that the players who clearly are going to stay and stick around in that squad emerge as the key leaders. I think that's what he's been trying to do. I haven't necessarily minded some of the chopping and changing, just because while it is building options, I think what this tour taught us was that there is still an actual consistency in structure that is building up and progressing. And the key thing that I've thought from that was that they've clearly found what the core of the team looks like. Even whether it be in that leadership group, whether it be players in key positions, the data that not just Schmidt has accumulated, but I actually reckon, Mike Cron, Jeff Parling, the Lord, like they've picked up a whole bunch of stuff and knowledge from that, and which is why they have thrown more investment and in particular players and hoped they'd come good and built on that. I think it's kind of a balance. It's a balancing act when you're trying to bring that new blood and new players in. I mean, like we've been talking, like to stay from a separate coach, to stray to a different sport for a minute. The Matildas are having this problem right now. They started the same team for so many years, and now the new coach the new manager comes out and goes, well, I feel like the team where there's been no preparation and no handover, and I'm having to blood a whole bunch of new players, and he's barely starting any of the old side, and people wonder why they're struggling so much. I think Schmidt has really done a balancing act, and considering he came into this season and series with only a few weeks and a couple of training sessions with him, I think he's done a phenomenal job.
Can I ask a question? Sorry, can I ask a question? What does Andy think? He's just sitting there on mute. He doesn't understand we're in the conversation. He's just there eating his McDonald's, drinking his Tooheys New. Oh, he might actually be away from Keith.
He's gone.
No. I'm here. I'm definitely here. We talked after the Wales test matches at home about Schmidt with he seemed to pick players in combinations, and how we're talking like, so he substituted the person throwing the line out and the person receiving the line out seemed to sort of come on at the same time. We're talking about blooding new players, but it's also I think one of the things he's done well is it's difficult to throw somebody into the current Wallabies setup, the current high performance Rugby Australia setup. There's not the same pathways like they have in New Zealand, where somebody, they won. We'll put our fourth choice fly half in, and we'll still win a World Cup because it's a production line over there. But bringing these people on sort of together that know each other's game has sort of softened. I think it's a bit of a soft landing for some of these players coming in. So it's hard to. Then you've got to start building those, I guess, crossover combinations. So. To reflect on what some of what you've said, there's been some really smart coaching that's been my takeaway this year, is his thinking about like, how do I bring this person in but make it as positive an environment as possible for them to come on for their first test match or their first opportunity in a gold jersey in a long time. That makes sense to everybody, or am I just absolutely talking crap over here? I don't know.
No, like it makes sense, mate. I completely see where you're coming from. You know, the idea that we haven't had that luxury that like they have in New Zealand, where it's set the assembly line style. But the other thing I want to add that I think there might be a bit of a controversial hot take, but he doesn't. We haven't had any fucking media issues with him. He hasn't made it about himself like Checker did. He hasn't made it about himself like Eddie did. He's actually just doing the fucking job he's employed to do. It's not the Eddie show or the Checker show. It's Joe's just, he's doing the work. And I think that's another thing because it appears like he's not creating this standoffish, whingy culture of us against, everyone's against us, which just bred whingy players. He's actually like I said, the guys are just there to turn up and work and play rugby and have fun doing it. So
yeah, and I think it's paid off in terms of a lot of players playing a lot better. I mean, we talked about Harry Wilson going better. I'm not going to ignore this particular topic anymore. Noah Lolesio.
I was just about to go and get another beer, so hold that thought for 1 second. All right, let's do it. Let's go.
I want to know what Andy thinks about Lolesio.
Yeah, let's kick Andy. Actually, yeah, before Dylan and I go hammer and tong at each other, what do you think about Noah Lolesio? He as a Queenslander boy himself.
Look, I am also going to need to go and get another beer before that because I'm going to sit back and enjoy you two on camera going at each other.
I can talk about Noah. Why, Andy? Go get a beer. I'll talk about.
No. I've still got half of this one. Look, he has been solid. I thought we'll talk. You guys were talking earlier about Ikitau moving into 12, who had, and one of the things he said was he's taken this pressure off Noah, and I think that is a fair statement, and again feeds into this Schmidt thing about how do we create an environment on the field where people can play their best rugby, and seemingly having Ikitau come into 12 has taken that pressure off Noah, and he has definitely played a lot better in that environment than I think a lot of us anticipated he might have, and based on his track record, we was like, is this our solution at 10? I think it's fair to say that is still a valid question. Is Noah our long-term solution at 10? Has he played a lot better lately in that setup? Yes, he has. Do I have a suggestion? Am I going to say Tom Liner because he plays for the Reds? No, I'm not. I'm not going to say that yet. We have to see.
I'll say Tom.
No, he's not ready. He's not ready.
You know what? I'll say another Queenslander. Get Carter Gordon back. Carter fucking Gordon.
I want to know. Actually, no. What the fuck is that guy thinking? Hey, what is he thinking going to the NRL in the first place? Fucking dead end. Go to Japan. Go to France. You idiot. B. The Titans.
The Titans. Remember the Titans? Fuck, I forgot about the Titans.
The Titans. Yeah.
He went to the city. He went to the one city where teams go to die. Like, why did he go to Gold Coast?
I don't know the answer to this. The only logical explanation, well, there's the two what I would apply to it. He got so fucked over by how Eddie Jones and Kevin Foote and RA and the Rebels, he just went, fuck this. I could see that. The other thing to add to it, which I don't have any proof, it's just speculation. His missus went, I'm a Queenslander. I want to go back to Queensland. Let's go to Queensland. She didn't want to go and live in France. She didn't want to go and live in Japan. She wanted to go. That would make logical sense. She came down to Melbourne with him. Maybe she's dragged him back to Queensland.
Imagine that. Your missus is like, I don't want to go to the south of France. I want to go to the Gold Coast.
I'm sorry. Are we in agreement? Are we all in agreement here that you're better off living in the great Southeast Queensland? Are we putting this on a pedestal above the south of France?
Yes, we are.
We are.
Is.
Babe, you can go to Monaco. Have you ever been to?
Hang on a second. I'm just going to go and get Billy Moore to scream Queenslander for us, okay? Actually, if we're actually Billy Morg, we're going to talk rugby league for a second. Fatty Vorton, congratulations. Hall of Famer on his retirement from Channel 9. What a freaking legend. I know he didn't play rugby union, but gosh damn, what a legend. What a catch.
Yeah, crack
What
fat.
That's
Anyway,
right.
I remember in year 5, I always watched a footy show and they played Cracker Fat. And I went into school and I was telling all the boys about this great show called Cracker Fat. And the teacher overheard me. So can you stop talking about that? I'm like, I don't. Why? And one kid's like, I know what Cracker Fat means. I'm like, you're fucking 11. How do you know?
Fuck, that's funny. Sorry, sidetrack once again.
Okay, can I be quick? Because I need to take a break too. I need to get a beer.
You need a beer. I love that you've all gone away and had your beer
so
breaks.
Carter Gordon and Marky Mark. What the fuck you're thinking? I don't really want to repeat myself, but I think Dylan's on the money because, to my understanding, RA offered them the same amount of money. Went, fuck it, I'm going to play for the Roosters. Why? Why the fuck? But my thoughts on Noah. Joe doesn't want to play out of fly half. Wants to play out of scrum half, and to that effect, Noah's held it a steady ship. He's become slowly more involved in attacking plays. So to your point, Nick, but to Dylan's point, you would expect him to run them more and, not have such a slow build up to running those attacking plays. His tactical kicking really lets us down and is really, really shown up against Finn Russell and the Irish fly half, Sam Prendergast. They've got easy 15 meters on him. And you could say that they won their game. We did so many forwards won so many great balls, backs had so many great moments, and it was let down half a dozen times at least off the top of my head by poor kicking.
Should we just get Harry Wilson?
Yeah, we probably
should. Should we just get Harry Wilson to do our clearance kicks?
Yes.
Yeah. Or Lenny Cattell, who has a huge boot, but everyone seemed to have forgotten it. Sometimes I have flashbacks of Bernard Foley being given the job when he was low confidence and couldn't do it, especially when Reece Hodge was in the team. But
I'm just going to jump in, Nick. Sorry. Every single Australian fan owes Reece Hodge an apology. Everyone slagged him off. I was like the only member of the Reece Hodge fan club. And then when they realised, I'm not calling you out, Nick. I'm just calling.
I was a Hodgie. I was always a Hodgie.
And I'm on record on this podcast saying he was the most important player to the Rebels, and I stand by that. It was just everyone. Oh, he doesn't really have a position. Doesn't matter. He was a fucking workhorse that could do it. He stepped up and took shots at goal that were very hard kicks. And everyone's kicking ratios. Yeah, of course. He's kicking them from 60 out on an angle because that was the game plan. Oh, let's go for a shot. Well, because we didn't back our line out. We didn't back our forwards. So he stepped up, and when it didn't work, he's shit. He's not, doesn't really have a position. Mate, we'd be killing to have him at 10 right now.
I agree.
Grand Slam if he's at tour.
If he was South African, everyone would be riding his nuts if he was the South.
And remember that time we played Hodge at 10 against New Zealand? And I remember bringing my dad and well, we're stuffed. We've got Hodge at 10. And then we ran in 43 points against them. It was just Mr. Fix-It.
Man, yeah, fucking so undeserved. We miss him. But the final thing I just want to say is Noah's hitting the conversions and the penalties. And that's something that Australia's been crying out for ages. He's kept us in games by hitting those penalties. So I feel very conflicted. Anyway, I'm going to mute you boys. Have at it.
So, okay. Do you want me to go first? Are we doing pros and cons first? How do we want to do this, Dill?
You go.
All right. So this is where I sit. All of the points that you guys have all mentioned so far are not unfounded. I do agree that Noah's tactical kicking lets him down a lot. That is a key point that he needs to work on. So watching him over the course of this year, I've been really interested in him, not just because the criticisms that we've had up until this point are not unfounded. The dude has lacked confidence. The dude has felt like he's struggled in the past a lot with actually standing up in terms of this team. And I actually thought to myself, when you think of really good Australian fly halves, where does Noah sit? Like, what defines him as a fly half? And we finally got our answer this year, I think, in terms of who he is as a player. And that is, he's not necessarily like a Larkham. He's not in any way, shape, or form a Larkham who is flashy, can do all the extra stuff, but throw things out. He's not a flashy player because he doesn't need to be. I think what makes Noah work is that up until this point, there was a point that was raised earlier that we've had two sledgehammers effectively in the centres. During the game against Argentina that Australia won, Noah was paired alongside Hamish Stewart. And I thought suddenly the game changed significantly with Hamish Stewart in there because it was a second ball distributor. Larkham, alongside him during his time, had someone like Tim Horan and someone like Elton Flatley, who were just as effective ball distributors as Larkham was. And for me, this changed everything for Noah. It suddenly took a significant amount of pressure that didn't need to be put on him off him. And I think this has only been improved effectively with Ikitau coming into the side. Suddenly, Noah can unleash a lot of these players differently. I mean, look at the key point, for example, was looking at that try that he helped orchestrate that saw Jorgensen go in the corner against Ireland.
30-second limit.
So for me, I mean, the fact that he's literally started in the majority of the games, you can't dispute this. He's going to be the 10 at the Lions next year. Like, it's clear that is going to be the case. And I think for the position and the role that he needs to play in this side, he has found out who he is. I'm nearly done. He is nearly, I reckon that he has found who the player himself is. He doesn't need to be flashy. I reckon he doesn't need to be flashy. Because he's got so many other good weapons that he can unleash around him. Time.
Dylan, you have 2 minutes.
No, look, I agree that the time that I've seen him look good was getting that game against Argentina when he had Hamish Stewart. I've maintained that having that Hunter Paisami at 12, no good. He's never looked good in a gold jersey. Should never wear a gold jersey at 12 again. But the thing is, yes, the tactical kicking is so bad. It's so bad. And I know that there are people like, oh, yeah, he's smart because he does it. No, he just kicks. Because if you look at the other World 10s, where you look at Smith, and I'm the biggest Smith fan. Like, I would kill to get Smith into a gold jersey. But Finn Russell, you look at, Entamac and Ramos, Pollard, Mackenzie and Barrett. These guys know I'm going to put it high and it's going to come down and it's going to be there for my guy to win it. And sometimes it might come off, but it's not a 50-50 ball, right? The crossfield kicks, they are perfectly weighted, and I've got a rant about this later, but they're perfectly weighted for the winger or fullback to run onto it. Noah's, mate, he sprays it more than a 5-year-old at the urinal. Like, fucking stop kicking, right? It's not in his wheelhouse. Then stop fucking doing it. Look, you're right. He doesn't have to be flashy. You know, Larkham wasn't the flashiest of players. He had good players outside of him, but he's not a playmaker. He doesn't make anything happen. It's the players around him that are making things happen. He won't change a game. He won't go. Watch Marcus Smith go. Oh, there's nothing really happening here. I'll make something happen. In the same way that Tate does it. Tate will just go, I'll make something happen. He doesn't have that. So he doesn't have the tactical kicking. He doesn't have the playmaker. Yeah, if you say Tate, Andrew says Rick.
Andrew's ears are burning. Tate mentioned.
And it's that, like, he just doesn't, there's nothing exciting about him. There's nothing that he is going to step up and win us a World Cup. He is not a world-class player. He doesn't have, and if we're relying on the fact that it's going to be a 12, well, guess what? We don't have the depth at 12. We have Iki Tau, who stepped up as a brilliant 12, but if Hartman's right that we're going to play off 9, then Noah should have fun, but he's just passing. He's there. He's just a passenger. And unfortunately, Australia is not good enough to have passengers. The only positive is that, yes, he's off the tee. He has been excellent. And yes, that is very much needed to win games. Points win games. But I would rather see someone who, like Carter Gordon, would make something happen. I believe Tom Liner would make something happen. If the game's not working, it's going sideways, he would find a way to steer the attack in a way that Lolesio doesn't have it in his wheelhouse. The only time
how do you feel about Kane? I mean, he had the shortest international debut.
Oh, that broke my heart. Yeah. I like Edmed. I like it, and I've been hoping that Edmed. I'll look back to Edmed, but I just want to say when back in 2020 when it was being picked between Lolesio and Will Harrison, and it was who's going to get picked, who's going to get picked, and everyone picked, and then they picked Lolesio because he was looking better at the Brumbies. But the reality is, Will Harrison looked good at the Waratahs behind a shit forward pack, whereas Lolesio looks good behind a good Brumbies pack because he doesn't have to do anything. And the only time he looks really good and creative is when he was playing against Carter Gordon because he got fucked off that Carter Gordon was better than him. That was the only time he ever played with any flair.
Are we still going? I noticed, Nick. I noticed, Nick, that you gave him extra time. By the way, so
I said nice things about New South Wales.
Yeah, and I wanted to come on the pod again, Nick.
Yeah, we need our non-New South Wales representatives here. I
think the swig of beer is basically the mic drop from Dylan.
It's a shame that Josh isn't on here because
we need the other bloody
coach. So
other bloody Nova Castro. Where are you, mate?
Understanding of Lolesio.
Yeah. See, I think that in the past, that whole issue around him feeling like a passenger or not grasping games by the scruff of the neck was valid. I think that's changing, though. I think that is changing a lot in this. Yes,
Nick,
I do.
Do you actually like him? Do you actually like him? Are you just saying that as a Brumbies fan?
No, I think so. To be honest, no. Honestly, I think in my head, I actually scrutinize him probably more than any other player, in all honesty. But it's like a good example is probably, let's say, Nick, like Lockie Swinton. You were convinced that I hated him. And then all of a sudden, like in that last year at the Tars, he plays the best he's ever done. And it's suddenly like, where was this? And it's appreciating progression when you see it and that there is a player growing there. I mean, the entire reason we won that game in Argentina is because he took a break in the last 5 minutes and got us down that end of the field to win the game. That was the entire reason we won that game in Argentina. And while I'd say he's not as, I would agree he's not on the level of Finn Russell. Name many players that are. I mean, of course, there's a couple of South Africans, but Finn Russell's got 50 caps on him of experience and also done several Lions tours.
Smith, I would say, Marcus Smith's better. I would say
Marcus Smith's had more game time at a lower level and more time in the England jersey.
And
he just needs
England
time.
By far more if Marcus Smith wasn't playing.
Pardon?
Sorry?
We would have beaten England comfortably if Marcus Smith wasn't playing.
I'd agree with that. Well, yeah, definitely, because he helped score those 2 tries at the end. Yeah.
And that's the thing. He will go, I can make this happen. And like you watch, I support Harlequins in the Premiership, so I watch those games and you just see what he's capable of doing and you feel his presence. Finn Russell's another one that's like that. And like, I just think we haven't had someone grab that jersey. I think it's been given to Lolesio, and I don't think that anyone's gone, actually, that's mine. I think Donaldson's a bit the same. It's like, oh, well, I've got it now. But I don't feel that we've had someone really fight and grab that jersey. Almost, actually, would probably go back as far as 2015 with Foley, when it was sort of between him and Cooper, and it was like, this is going to be me, and I'm going to play it out. And we really had been hurting. Yeah. We've been hurting since then because Foley really didn't ever match that level again. And
but it felt like that going into that World Cup. But then Foley had an amazing World Cup. But yeah, I agree. And then Quaid came back when he unearthed Quaid. And anyway. Andy,
yeah.
Can I ask Andy a question?
Go ahead.
Who won that debate, Andy?
No, look, look. Based on passion, I'm going to have to go. Yeah, I know, right? Look, I'm going to have to go with my mate Dylan here. Hey,
you,
Howard.
You sorry, it's no, and look, you guys are right in terms of Foley, 2015 World Cup, incredible. I think since in the last 10 years, the only 10 we've had it in Australia that will consistently turn a game and turn up and win you the game is Quade Cooper. He was the guy who could make a difference. He'll show up, and okay, we might lose, but we might win a game that we shouldn't win because this guy he will create something. Kick, pass, run, offload. Okay, defensively, had to do a lot of work on that. And that we are definitely missing that. So I'm going to have to give the points. It's a points decision to Dylan. Okay, just based on. And look, Nick. Nick W. Your points.
Paul versus Mike Tyson.
We'll be back for round 2 at the end of the Lions series next year. We'll do it all again.
No, look, we won't because he's not going to be there. Because we all know that the only one that's going to get there is going to be the legacy Tom Liner. Oh, mate, Michael Liner, God. Tom Liner, let's do it. Let's get a real legacy into it. Let's do it.
It does, on this point, though, and it's kind of been a thing that's sitting in my head, is that, God, what have we done? How have we treated fly halves over the last decade? My God, that position has been a mess.
And that's the thing. We've used and abused them. We've put them in when they're not ready. We've burnt them. We have a guy like Hodge that goes in and out. And also, I do think Nick's right in that we're playing off 9, and that's a really big point. And that's probably why Lolesio's looking more comfortable. And it's as I said, he looked better when he had Stewart, and he looked better when he had Ikitau. Yeah. He didn't look good when he had Karevi. He looks woeful when he's got Paisami. He needs someone there holding his hand. And, okay, maybe that means that in 5 years' time, he'll be ready because someone's held his hand long enough. But, he was fortunate to have Gordon there to hold his hand this time. And maybe that's why Gordon looked better, because Gordon had that role. But you know what? Eventually, someone's not going to be, Mufasa's going to die and Simba's going to have to grow into a man. And I don't think Lolesio is going to grow into a man.
Too soon, Dylan. Too soon.
Schmidt uses the same metaphor.
I'll be back. I'm going to go cry.
Yeah.
I reckon
Schmidt uses that to G out Lolesio. Mufasa, Simba. Who are you?
Come on, Simba. That is going to be his name from now on. We'll see if Hoss starts using it on the website.
That'd be great if we all called him Simba.
We all called him Simba.
I want to redirect this because going back to the tour, something a positive and a negative that's come out of it, and I know this is going to change. The Stan Sports coverage, because Stan Sports have brought in something that I think rugby has been crying out for, and it was the ball in play replay. It didn't show. So the game, if you go on Stan to watch a replay, the replay without all the fluff at the start is still about 2 hours. The ball in play for the Welsh game was 65 minutes. And that still included a couple of TMO, like, I think it was, the TMO for the Karevi hit, which I'm like, okay, you got to see it. You understand what happened. Some of the replays of but like it didn't show any of the penalties. So if we won a penalty, it then went refs blowing the whistle. Next clip is the line out. It didn't have the fluff of Taniela Tupou sitting there grabbing his giant fucking calves for 5 minutes. It didn't have the, that drag out and the stoppages, which is killing the game. Like, I actually think with that 65 minutes, you could get people into rugby. And I think that is just brilliant. Whoever at Stan Sports, give that person a raise. I was literally talking to my old man about it, and then Stan Sports have done it. So, yeah.
Morgan,
I want to second that. That was an amazing thing this year because you could watch an entire game in 60, 65 minutes. The 28, 30-minute replays were good because they would show like a build. Oh, okay, it was held up or it was knocked on 5 meters out. But those 60-minute replays were they were incredible. Like, you got to see what happened, the ebb and flow of the game. Yeah, I mean, I do love a good calf muscle, and I do love a bit of Tupou because,
Yeah,
in terms of getting people into the game, it's not a 3-hour prospect now. We'll pop this on, it's an hour, and it's all happening. The ball is always in contest, unlike rugby league. Somebody's been tackled. Okay, everybody get off him, stand 10 meters back, give them another go. Everybody gets 5 goes. Everybody's a winner.
To quote Deadpool, I'm so hard right now.
Hey,
Queensland. Oh,
that told me 3 hours ago.
See what you traded in for, Carter.
Yeah. I'd really like to see a player cam. I remember when the A-League signed Del Piero and they signed Emil Heskey, and they had Emil Heskey, to describe it, he didn't
Back
do
when
much.
they had money.
He just took balls and he put them down on his feet and then passed the ball, and he didn't do anything at all. So it was funny that they had Heskey cam because this is him watching the ball. And I wish they had like a Heskey cam. So it'd be like, Williams cam. You just see Jeremy Williams run around the field.
Some of those are pretty cool, like that footage that you can get. But even some of the player mics, they're good fun. Like, I think that's the fun stuff that could help bring people into rugby, because we do need to bring people back. And I just think that you could have some fun with that.
After try interviews with Henry Spade.
Oh, fucking hell. Good work, Fox. Oh, poor boy.
No, you guys weren't in Melbourne when I can't even remember who we were playing it. It was a day test, and this would have been back in like 2016, 2017, and they interviewed like the players that weren't playing, and it was all like the Fijian guys that were like, it was Sefa Naivalu, Eto Nambuli, and they were asking them all these questions, which you'd think were like, oh, if you weren't a rugby player, what would you do? Like those sort of things. But for whatever reason, the players didn't seem to understand it, and there was no communication. It was the most cringe footage to sit there, and you're like, where's the fucking marketing pigeon? This is just like, it was so bad.
Yeah. Well, look, I reckon all of these points are pretty good in terms of trying to improve the quality of the game. And I reckon this actually leads us quite nicely into a good place to wrap up this pod for tonight and for the year. And that is that, hey, Lions are coming next year, speaking of hopefully trying to get more people in. I think we're all pretty much in agreement that Schmidt has been a shot in the arm for this team, for this squad in general. We all want him to stay. I feel like asking that question of how we feel about it, how he is a bit redundant because, I think he's made a huge difference. So as a final point for this pod, and Andy, I'm going to throw to you first for this. How do we feel about the British and Irish Lions tour now in 2025?
I feel like if we can hold ourselves as a national team like we did in the game against Ireland, where we go, look, we lost, but we gave it a go. look, we probably had an opportunity to win it, but we're against a very good team, a very well-drilled team. If we can come out of the Lions series looking back and going, okay, we didn't win, but we gave it a go and we put ourselves forward as a prospect to win, I think we can all walk away going, that was a good time. If we get belted across all 3 tests, then we'll have to do some soul-searching again.
For some reason, I don't feel like that's going to happen anymore.
But I think Schmidt will, if Schmidt can keep developing this team the way he has so far. No, I don't. But it's the hope that kills you. Hope is a dangerous thing, to quote Shawshank. We've been here before where we've been hopeful, but look, I feel like that they're gonna turn up, okay, and that's the minimum we can ask. But yeah, it's yet to be written, isn't it? Who knows what can happen? Late penalty kicks in 2 of the 3 games. If Kurtley Beals won that game, and who knows what could have been.
Yeah, it's a fair question. I always think about that one, and I always feel sorry for Kurtley about that night, because God, it would have changed the whole Lions tour if he'd done that. Dill, how are we feeling now? Especially considering there's not just the Wallabies games, but all the other games happening around it too.
Just going back to your point, Nick, I'll never feel sorry for Kurtley Beale. That was what happened after what he did in Melbourne. Nah, fuck him. Check your fucking boots. You're a professional. No, I'm excited for the Lions tour. I've got my tickets to Adelaide. I'm just now trying to work out the best way to get across there. I think it's going to...
Yeah, we're going to go to Adelaide. Fuck.
Yeah, I'm very keen. And I think, I'm excited. I think it's really nice to end this year on a positive. I was thinking to myself, coming on this podcast, usually coming on to rant about the Rebels and not talk something positive. So to actually come and end on a positive and say, yeah, look, it's a good way to end the rugby year. And I'm excited for the tour. I'm excited because I think that what Andy Farrell will bring is going to be a very exciting team. And I think with what Schmidt's been building is going to be a very exciting team. And I think that it's just going to keep building right into the World Cup. So, yeah, it's going to hopefully be a really good... You just want it to be entertaining. I think that's what rugby needs, is it to just be entertaining and to not turn around and be that we can't become the whipping boy. That the AFL don't turn around, see, it didn't work, or, see this. The NRL can't do it. Soccer can't do it. It's like, we are Australia's sport and we need to show that.
Yeah. Nick?
Does that mean it's my turn?
It is.
Okay, it's going to sound crazy, and Andy, I want your mic on, not muted for this. But I think whatever...
Okay, I'm back. Hello.
Yeah, whatever happens for next year will be reflected in how well the Waratahs do.
Oh, no.
Don't
Jesus
what I mean by that...
Don't you dare.
What I mean by that is that the Waratahs are fucking stacked. We have the second, perhaps third best coach in Australia behind Joe Schmidt. The other one in contention, Andy, is Les Kiss. And if they don't do well, I think that would impact the Lions. Now, if the Waratahs did well, and I would say doing well is semi-finals, quarterfinals. I'm not really sure how Super Rugby's finals work next year. But if they get into, top 5 teams, let's say, I think that's good, right?
Top 6.
Yeah, first year
Top
coach,
6.
first year team. But I really think that matters. And what I'm really excited to see is the bounce that the boys from the Wallabies will go into their super teams with.
Don't you mean the Rebels?
And the Rebels.
Still hurts.
Carter Gordon. No.
Still hurts.
Just ripping up, Amy Park by himself. No, but I honestly think that will be the best indicator. Because I'm just thinking, if you're, I don't know, Jake Gordon, and you've just come off this shit Waratahs season, done that with the Wallabies, and you go back from the Waratahs, you'd be like, you know, like, would you have massive FOMO? You know what I mean? So Jeremy Williams, all that, like Western Force got a stacked team. So yeah, that's what I think. And Andy, I want you to tell me, am I insane or not? Sorry, it's taking a bit. The signal's taking a bit to get up to Brisbane.
As an uncertified student professional, you're not insane.
Thank you. Thank you.
What is he?
What do you think, Dylan, in lieu of Andy?
I just, I've got a personality psychology book here, so it's blurry. But,
So there's a brain on it.
Something like that. Yeah, it's personality, so it's not really that important.
What do you think? What do you think? I'm pretty smart, right?
I think that it is that old saying about for cricket, for the Australian cricket team to look good, New South Wales has got to win, and I think that there's probably something to that. I don't, I think that the challenge McKellar's going to have is that it's Dan McKellar, right? I'm not going crazy there. Yeah, is that he's going to have to bring those guys and get them to play together, because he does have this all new team, and actually, it's almost the only team. Oh, the Brumbies and the Reds really haven't had a big influx from the Rebels or like massive wholesale changes. So
it's just been players here and there.
Yeah, I think the Reds are really going to miss James O'Connor. Like, oh god, that's just brutal. But I think that that'll be the real challenge for Australian Super Rugby next year. Is that with the big shake-ups, can these teams come together? Because you can't just throw. You can't just throw all this talent into a pot and hope that it makes something good. You need to actually put the work in. So, but I think for all Australian teams to do well, you can't. That's what they need.
So, we've got Andy back now. He disappeared. Nick Hartman. I'm assuming you heard the majority of. Are you back now, Andy? We've got you.
Yeah, I heard what Nick said, and I thought I was having a moment, because he was saying that the Wallabies' fortunes next year against the Lions were dependent on the Waratahs' fortunes.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't mishear that. That wasn't part of my internet dropping.
I'd say the Waratahs are a lodestone for how it's going to turn out.
I respectfully disagree.
Mm-hmm. Keeping in mind that Harry Wilson's from Canada.
It is.
Every time.
Every time. But it doesn't play for the Waratahs. Look, the Brumbies have been flying the flag for Australian rugby for a long time, for a reason. They have a great setup down there. They have a great system down there. Whatever it is, they just keep turning up. The Reds are building something good.
They are.
The Red squad for next year is... Yes, we lost James O'Connor. But, we've got a lot of good players.
You got Mason Gordon.
We do.
Andy's internet's working because he's watching 2011 again.
Yeah. I think we've lost him. Yeah, we're sorry, Andy. We've lost him. That's right.
Real slow Queenslander talk. Really have to think through the syllables.
R.I.P. Put some more oil in the thing, Andy. You gotta restart it. You gotta pull the chug and then also press the ignition in and then to
put it in A.
Yeah,
it's the old school dial-up. Mom, get off the phone.
Well, look, I think we're all in agreement that Andy would disagree with that. So does this mean, Nick, that if the Waratahs do terribly, it's your fault that we lose the Lion series?
No, that's unfair.
So basically, you're saying
what I'm trying
Waratahs
to say,
when we win the Lions series, you will claim basically the entire reason is because of the Waratahs, and if we lose the Lions series, it's not their fault at all.
no, that's a subtext. No, what I'm trying to say, if the Waratahs have a bad season, prepare for a 2-1 loss. If they have a good season, prepare for a 2-1 win. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm betting.
And if an Australian team doesn't win the rugby and we don't win the Lions tour, were we justified in getting rid of the Rebels?
Yes.
Fuck you, Nick.
So many questions to answer here. Hey,
should have got rid of the Brumbies.
Oh, don't you fucking dare!
No, they can keep Lolesio.
Imagine. I wanted to see Dylan's face in an alternative timeline that the Brumbies got cut and freaking Noah runs out in a Rebels jersey in 2025.
He went to Toulon. It's fine. His girlfriend was happy in the south of France.
Yeah, didn't want to go to the Gold Coast. I will finish this ridiculous pod by saying Bernard Jackman made a comment, I think, on another podcast that will remain nameless. And he was asked, does he think that the Wallabies, after watching against Ireland, can win a game? And he said more. He said, absolutely, not just a game. He thinks that they're going to be legitimately competitive. And I think that's going to be the case. I reckon we are due for the amount of crap that was flung at Australian rugby before the start of this tour. I mean, people were saying, why are we even bothering taking this tour on the road? Why are we even bother? Let's just cancel the tour and go to South Africa. And I mean, Nathan talked about it as well. The kind of the way that Australian rugby was viewed. Jonathan Drennan made a great point that Australian rugby as a brand, people don't realize how big it is in outside of Australia. How much the Wallabies are known worldwide and how much respect that they actually can command. And that's so much that so many leagueies and AFL fans and pundits just don't understand, because the fact is that those sports just don't have the global reach that rugby union does. I think what this tour has done and what Joe Schmidt has done has actually helped this side get their DNA back and their groove back. And we're literally 3 points away from this being the first time the Wallabies had a successful year in terms of winning percentage since 2015. That's how close we were. And I think we're going to be in store for a fantastic series. And not just with the Wallabies themselves. I reckon each Super Rugby side, I reckon the moment that belief comes into a side, it becomes infectious. And I think this Wallaby side is starting to believe again. And I think that's the key good endpoint for 2024 for me, the key learning that's come out of it. And I hope that spreads to all our Super Rugby sides.
You need the Ted Lasso believe thing so you can walk out and touch it on your...
Yep.
Yeah.
I'll write it. I'll make sure in my new office I'll have a believe sign there, and it'll be on the back of the screen there, so it's for everyone to see.
I want to see an X-Files poster. I want to believe.
I love it.
You got to get the Michael Scott. I'm ready to get hurt again.
Yeah, let's do it. Bring it back to a generic comment. That's how I do it here on the Dropped Kickoff. I reckon that does us for the year. What do you reckon, lads? Anything else to say?
Mate. Oh, plenty, but we've got to go. So.
But yes, cheers, lads. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. And thank you to all of our amazing listeners. I also just want to shout out, I found out that my old teacher actually listens to this podcast. So, Mr. Bevan, thank you. Appreciate you listening to the pod and somehow listening to our ramblings for many, many years. But cheers, everyone. Thank you very, very much for listening in 2024. And we'll catch you in 2025 for a Lions tour.